Hey, how's the future? Is it great? Are we all sitting in like floating chairs like Wally said, 800 pounds? Am I skinny in the future? Am I like the skinniest person alive because no one's walking anymore and they can send pizza through the internet and candy doesn't have I guess if candy didn't have calories, then everyone would be skinny. So strike that. Or unless it's possible. If candy can have no calories, please tell me. Which, by the way, I know this isn't the Waistline in my weight loss podcast, a little plug. But it is kind of bullshit just to God, I guess, that dried fruit has a lot of calories. Like more calories than regular fruit, and all they did was let it get dry. I wish you could leave me out like a raisin. Like you're like, oh, I'm getting fat. I'm just gonna go sit in the sun and dry out and then get like real shredded, because that's all that they dry out cranberries and they taste like nature's gummy bears. And I thought I'd come up with a trick that no one else had ever known before, and turns out that everyone knew it. Dried fruit is bad for you, and I don't like that. But the reason why I'm asking about the future is not because I'm Doc Brown. I would love to be Doc Brown, but is because if you were listening to this the day it comes out, I'm probably on a plane back from Denver, but I just spent the last week in Denver. How was it? I don't know, because I'm still in the past. But I'm going to assume it went great. I'm going to assume the green chili was delicious, and the weed was fantastic. We'll find out. I've heard mixed reviews. Some good, some bad. It's mainly just because if you're there and you're like, the weed's fine here. I don't know why you sound like that. I'm sorry. But if you did say that, especially in that voice, I'm only speaking of the recreational side, because I am not a Denver resident, so I cannot get the medical marijuana in Colorado. So I've heard mixed reviews about the retail side, but that's neither here nor there, nor in the future, nor in the past. I said nor too many times. But I am in the past. I am currently it is currently. There we go. Words work again. Isn't that fun? When like I went to college. Do you guys realize I'm almost done paying off my student loans, so I can't even ask for a refund now. I should have not paid. Why did I pay off my student loans so fast? I could have showed them that clip of me saying I'm on May 7th, and then they would be like, okay, you get at least 20 grand back just for that one sentence. We obviously didn't do our jobs, but I am currently in the past. It is May 7th. I literally just did it. See, 40 grand. I almost did it again. It is May 7th, and I am about to spend time a week in Denver for work, which is very exciting. I'm excited to go. I've been there once for like 3 days with Joey, and I had a blast. But Joey is not one for sightseeing. The only sights he sees are the hotel and the comedy club, and he works out now too. I still don't like it. I don't know roughly or at all what my weight is going to be this week. I am flying with my scale. That's a new fun thing. I used to fly with snacks, and now I'm flying with scales. That should be a t-shirt. Yeah. I legitimately, my favorite thing about flying was the night before being like, ooh, what snacks am I going to bring on the plane in case I get starving. But it really wasn't even for the plane. It was mainly for the hotel room, because there's nothing better. I'm still going to bring snacks for the hotel room, but they're going to be rice cakes and protein bars, which, who knows, could be good. I'm trying a new one out this week. I'm sure they're going to be fine. I actually do like rice cakes. It's just they're not as good as Snickers bars. So, but I'm not here to talk about candy. Actually, I am kind of here to talk about candy. Today I am going to talk about things that I learned by having minimum wage jobs. And I had, I guess, 4 of them, but only 3 of them really count. And I had, I'll explain in a second. But I'm in the past. I'm coming home from Denver. I wanted to make sure you guys had an episode. So I hope everything's going well. I hope the world is still here. What if I'm dead? I hope not. That would suck. I hope I don't die on the way to or in Denver or on the way back. I have to say that because I learned when I was gambling, which we talked about a little bit last week, that you have to be very specific what you ask for. So sometimes I'd say in my head, all right, anything under a 6, anything under a 6. And like when I was playing blackjack and I had 15. Oh no. And I had a 16 because anything under a 6, right? So if I had a 16, I'd be okay, hit me. I hated hitting. And I'd say anything under a 6. And the universe would give me an ace or like, yeah, a 2 would even be okay. I guess it's not great, but the universe would give me an ace and I would want to shoot myself in the face. So I learned that you have to be very specific what you ask for. So not only do I not want to die in Denver on the way to Denver, but I don't want to die on the way back from Denver either. So hopefully the world is still here and the world as we know it, or maybe a little bit better. Maybe now puppies just appear out of nowhere. Maybe that's a government. That would be a great government program. Appearing puppies. No. Puppies for you. Puppies for every puppy. I could run on for the president on puppies for every American citizen, and I feel like I would win in the biggest landslide ever recorded in American political forget American political history. Let's just go the universe's political history. You know, on Xenon, planet Xenon, that presidential election, because even aliens need presidents for some reason. I beat that. I beat the king of the Xenon king. No, I beat the kid of the Xenon king. Sorry. I didn't want to gender him. So it's the kid of the Xenon king. He was supposed to succeed his father. I just did gender him right there. I am messing up. He was supposed to succeed his father, and I said, not anymore, because I'm going to give puppies to every Xenonian, and I win. But I am, and can you believe I'm not even stoned? This is just, when people are like, Lee, you don't do that much during the day. I do this all day. Like, just for an example, I took a poop so good yesterday that I missed it today. You heard me. I took a poop, a bowel movement, so glorious, more than 24 hours ago, that I am still currently thinking about it and missing it and sad that I didn't take a picture of it. That's just where my brain's at. And someone's like, how dare you open a door to your office? So I worked multiple minimum wage jobs, and I learned a lot at them. And I really, it was the first thing I did outside of school. And it really, I grew a lot when I met Joey and was on the church and did stand-up years later. But my first, getting out of my, bubble, I would say, my spoiled, probably middle class to upper middle class, I would guess. Well, I would say we were a middle class family in an upper middle class area. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I was very privileged growing up. I'll put it like that. And I got to work with people who were far less fortunate than I was. So I learned a lot about myself and about the world from minimum wage jobs, and I think there's a huge benefit to doing that, to having those kind of jobs. So quickly, right before we start, I do want to give some love and a shout out to my sponsor for this week's episode. And the sponsor for this week's episode is Manscaped. Yay, Manscaped. Thank you so much. And Manscaped has breaking news, which you might have heard last week, but it's been a slow news week in the grooming world, and we still have breaking news. Manscaped has a brand new trimmer. The Lawnmower 3.0, you did a great job, but you're retired. Move down to Florida, play with the kids. Manscaped 4.0, I'm sorry, the Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped is here to stay, and it's taking names and kicking ass. It's light, it's sleek, it looks like an iPhone if it could shave you. Bam, I don't know if I can say brands, hopefully I can. Look at this. It has wireless charging, it's waterproof, which is great, so you can take it into the shower and shave your little ballsy wallsies. And it still has a ceramic edge blade. It still has the skin safe trademarked technology. So your testicles are safe, okay? What it also has, I think I already told you, but I'm going to tell you again. It has wireless charging. That's really awesome. 2, you turn it on, right? And let's just say, for example, you're in hiding from the cartel. Boom, light turns off. I don't know why you would turn the light off. I never turn the light off. I would like Manscaped, if you're listening, and I know you are, right here. Like the light's here, okay? And that's great. But for the Lawnmower 5.0, floodlight. Bang. I want to see everything. Floodlight and a camera. Floodlight, camera, and Bluetooth. Let's just make this another phone. Can we just make a phone that shaves my balls? Because I would use it, and I would call you while I was doing it. The other nice thing, just very quickly, is boom, boom, boom. Now it is in lock mode, so in my kids, which I don't have any, they can press it, and it's not going to go. But now I go boom, boom, boom again, and it works. See? Boom, boom, boom. Oh, see, I locked it too many times. There we go. Oh, see? God dang it. 1, 2, 3. There we go. See? It works. See? The lock really works. I do have a funny story that I once thought my Discman was broken for a year because it was on hold, and I didn't know about it. But now you know about it. The lock works. It's great. You're not going to run out of battery. So go to manscaped.com. Just check everything out. When you want to buy something, use my name, Syatt, Syatt, at checkout. Get 20% off plus free shipping. That's manscaped.com using code Syatt, and you get 20% off plus free shipping. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Thank you so much to Manscaped. Let me take a quick drink. Hold on. This is this is the same Gatorade as last week, just so you know, because it's like 16 hours. No, it's probably about 24 hours later. I don't really drink a ton of it. I do try to drink more water, but right now I have Gatorade Zero in the office. Gatorade Zero? Yeah, Gatorade G0. So, let me just break down the jobs I had. Unfortunately, I didn't work in an arcade. I did have a job at a movie theater that had an arcade in it, but that's not really the same. Sort of like working at a Starbucks, inside of a Target, inside of a grocery store, inside of a mall. Which I'm sure will exist, or does exist. I had a ton of jobs, actually. I started a weeding business when I was a young child, and I remember I was in 2nd grade, and I had a little wooden sign at the end of my driveway, and I lived very close to the school. So when I got to school, after putting the sign up, they're like, "You're getting married?" They thought it said wedding, but it said Lee's Weeding. And I did, I think 2 jobs. And then I quit because even in 2nd grade, I knew that manual labor and little old Lee do not mix. So when I could get a real job, and I got a job early. I don't know if they still have this, but at least in Massachusetts, when you're 14, you can get a work permit, and I got one by my wrestling team companion. Got me a work permit, got me a job with him at CVS in the town I grew up in. And it's funny because I worked actually at a different CVS. I worked at a different CVS. I worked at 2 CVSs, and I switched CVSs because one of the, or I guess 2 of the photo technicians, which they don't really have anymore. They used to have kids. Okay. I don't know how old some of you are, but if you were born, I don't know, in the 2000s, like if you don't know even what the 90s were like, so you're going to laugh. We used to take pictures and then there'd be film inside of it, and we'd either have to take the film out and bring it to like a CVS, or listen to this, it's crazy. They would have entire cameras that you would buy, and then they were disposable. Think about that for the environment when you're yelling at me about ordering a comb on Amazon. We had cameras that we would use once and then bring it to the to CVS or anywhere else with a photo department, and then they would just throw it away. Who knows? Maybe they recycled them. It was the 90s. No one recycled anything. I don't even know what that means, but I'm sticking by it. I'm right. So two of the photo technicians, and I was 14. It blew my mind because one day I saw them. They showed me they bought a Coke, like not cocaine, but like they bought a Coca-Cola, which also young people had cocaine in it. Not during my time. I'm not that old, but it did have cocaine in it, or coca leaves. Something cocaine related was involved in Coca-Cola. They drank a little bit of the 20 ounce and then poured some sort of alcohol. I'm assuming either rum or whiskey or bourbon, something of that, something manly into it, and they drank it on the job. And I was 14 and very sheltered, and I thought they should have, like, I didn't realize that wasn't even an option. Like, not that I'm not a snitch, although kind of. I didn't intend to snitch with this story. And this has nothing to do with what I'm telling you about, but I'm going to tell you because I just remembered. So I remembered my least favorite job at CVS was something called facing, which is they have the cashiers, and then because all of you guys, myself included, are animals, they have people whose job it is to go through every aisle and just fix them. Especially, I hated... they wouldn't even let me do the make. I think they had someone else do the makeup because it's just so much. But I really hated the supplement section, and that was really the worst. The rest of them you can do, but when you go in, and who knows if they even do it anymore because I always see it wrong. They would have, if let's say I'm selling Gatorade Zeros and they're on the shelf instead of in the cooler section for some reason, and 3 of them have been taken. I have to pull the rest of them up to the front. I have to move the label to the front. You'd have to do the same. I remember one of my least favorite jobs at CVS was the milk. When milk expired, we had to take it out, take it to the back, pour it in a sink, and then put the carton in a box so they could know how many of them they called damaged. They weren't damaged. They were just bad. And instead of donating them, because they were probably still okay, we poured them down the drain, and it smelled like cold milk, and I didn't enjoy it. But to get back to the point, these photo techs, one of the photo techs took a knife out on me. Like he didn't like threaten to stab me, but like he kind of did. I don't know. I was 14 and terrified, and I kind of just left. I just left, and they called my house, and like, why did Lee leave? And I was like, because someone took a knife out on me. And I feel bad. Like, I realize now because how everyone always makes fun of me when I get into a car accident and I don't sue them. That you wasted I got hit by a trash truck once, not going very fast. And they did pay for everything, but I probably could have sued them and made a bunch of money, but I didn't. But this time I could have made a bunch of money because I'll never forget it. My mom and I, remember I was 14, my mother and I went to the Sudbury Library, which is the town I grew up in, and they had like little rooms you could rent. And myself, and I don't even know if it was lawyers for CVS or just like the I don't know what you would call them, like directors, like the people in charge of that area. I remember two of them came and we talked. We sat down. I told them my story, and I got transferred to a different CVS. I was put into CVS Witness Relocation, and I actually enjoyed it. Because I found out years later that my original CVS manager got fired because he was messing with people's overtime, and he would say, like, let's say I was scheduled for 45 hours or something, or if I worked 45 hours, that's a better way to put it. If I worked over 40 hours, he would shift probably about whatever amount of hours. So in the case of 45, he would shift, I think, 6 to get it under 40, but it doesn't matter. Whatever the limit was for part-time employees, he would make sure everyone was under that. And I don't know, I'm hearing all this secondhand. I don't think it was like CVS saying you can't pay them overtime, because I got paid overtime, but I think he probably got in trouble, or it looked better for him if he didn't schedule people for overtime. So that was a good reason to leave. And then, we're going to get to this, I guess, but I didn't really like the customers in the nice area, CVS. I prefer, and I still to this day, I want to be successful and I want to make money, but I don't want to live in an area where it's just wealthy people. They're kind of a bummer. Not all of them. If you're rich, you're probably one of the nice ones. But there's plenty of them, and there's plenty of shitty poor people too. So I know I'm what is it? Drawing with a big brush, or big broad strokes, whatever the word is. You know what I'm trying to say. I understand that not everyone is like this, but I'm going to talk about it later on. I was just supposed to tell you about my jobs. My second, and this one didn't really count. This was like a part-time job. I worked at Radio Shack for a few months, and I really didn't like it. I didn't like it because they made you drive like an hour multiple times, like while I was working there, to do like on-site training, which I actually don't mind. But people who worked at Radio Shack took it a lot more seriously than like what it would probably was worth. It's a minimum wage job. I loved it. I loved Radio Shack. I did not enjoy working there because I didn't like going to those meetings. I didn't like working on commission because they pay you, or at least back then, I mean, it doesn't exist anymore. They would pay you an hourly rate, but then if you sold a certain amount per hour, you got commission. And one time I knew I had to quit when my manager came up to me to give me like my first paycheck. He's like, I remember it was for $200, and he looked at me and he said, "Have you ever seen a check that big before?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've had a bar mitzvah. I've had a check for $200." And I sales and that, and I also this is kind of nerdy, but there was something with PCs. There was a connection called PS4. Or I think it was PS4, but someone came in and asked for that, and I was an idiot because I'm a nerd, but like I'm not. There's levels of nerdiness, and I'm somewhere maybe a little bit above average, but I'm not. I can't build computers or anything like that, nor would I want to. I guess it would actually be kind of cool, but he asked for. I'm almost positive it was a PS4 connector, and I was like, we don't sell video games here. And I don't even think the PS4 was out. I think it was at most a PS2. So maybe he just called it PS. For whatever reason, I thought he was talking about video games, and I said that to him as supposedly the expert. And luckily my boss was there to be like, he actually means this. So Radio Shack did not last long. What came next was I worked at a movie theater. I actually worked at 2 movie theaters. Same chain. What up, AMC? AMC. It used to be called General Cinema, but not when I worked there. And I loved working at the movie theater. I think I mentioned it last week. It was the only place I ever got benefits, free movies, free popcorn, free soda. happiness in a jar. I worked at one near my hometown and then one right next to my college. And then I was also takeout and a server at restaurants. One seafood chain, 2 locations, and then I barely lasted. I went to this American chain. It was called like Joe's on Newberry Street, and it was awful. I hated every second of it. But I really do think it's important to have those kind of jobs. Who knows if I'll ever have kids, but I learned a lot about myself, and I think I grew a lot having service industry and minimum wage jobs. And I'm actually learning something because, and you hear this a lot, I don't subscribe to the fact that younger people aren't hard workers, but it's just things have changed. Like, I was talking to somebody about getting an intern, and it really turns out that I can't because like when I was an intern, I had a bunch of internships and they were unpaid. Well, I did get one paid internship towards the end, but I got the majority of them were unpaid, and I was happy to do them. Of course, money is always great, but I can't afford to pay anybody right now. I'm not even paying myself. I'm breaking even, barely. But when I was looking into getting an intern, I was talking to someone at a college, and they were saying, "Oh, is your internship paid or unpaid?" I said, "I think it's going to be unpaid for now, but if I start making money, I would be more than happy to pay." He's like, "Oh, just so you know, unpaid internships are harder to fill because they promote income inequality." And I get what he had like a him in his title, which I get it. We're in different times. I'm not trying to be a curmudgeon. It's just weird to me. But he said it promoted income inequality, and I sort of see what he's saying, that only richer students who are the ones that can afford to not get paid for an internship. And that's a fair statement. I agree that is probably accurate. My issue is, though, I worked a regular job and I interned, and I would never be the type of boss be like, "Clean up my poop," or well, I guess no one should ever do that, but like I've had bosses make me dust tape things and close blinds and not terrible, but just, sort of like mundane busy work. And I wouldn't abuse anybody or make them do things that they shouldn't do, but I don't know, I feel like the unpaid internship is an important part of, at least for my field, for the entertainment field, is an important part of the process. Now, I'm sure, I can almost guarantee that I will get a lot of angry messages. "You cheap Jew, just pay them." I would love to, and I'm sure eventually I will be paying people. But I don't think that having an internship for free means I'm a bad person. I don't feel like I'm part of the problem with that. Who knows? Maybe I'm open to the possibility that I am the worst in the world. I don't think so, but you never know. So I wrote down some things that I learned in having all these jobs, and I'll tell you some stories that prove my point. For the first one, you always hear, like, the big term that I've heard for my entire life is the customer is always right. It's you're supposed to provide good service, whatever, blah, blah, blah. What I learned working in minimum wage jobs, and it applies to me, and I'll qualify it in a second. The customer is almost always wrong, and not even close. Like, I tell people now, I just tell people I went to art school, I'm an idiot, So I don't know what I'm doing. Like when I'm doing my taxes, or I got an oil change today, and I was like, I went to art school. I don't know much about this, but I was told this. It doesn't matter about with that. And being a mechanic is not a minimum wage job at all. But I'm an idiot, and turns out most everyone is an idiot. So for example, at CVS, you probably still see them. They have sales all the time, and we would have to put stickers on each product that was on sale that would hang down and tell people what the sale was. And multiple times a shift, almost every shift, they would just bring the wrong item up. It's literally like, it's right underneath the one that's on sale. If it doesn't have one on it, it's not on sale. Like sometimes, for example, let's just say a 20 count of Advil would be on sale, but a 50 count wouldn't be. So they bring the 50 and they want the sale price, and surprise, surprise, it's not on sale. Also, there was at the movie theater, we had a hot dog roller. So it was a big, probably had like 10 or 15 rollers, and you could put 2 or 3 on each, like along. It was pretty big, and it was on the line of registers at the concession stand. We literally had to put a sign on the hot dog machine that always had hot dogs on it. This is a hot dog machine, not a cash register, because people would just see us getting hot dogs and then line up in a line that didn't exist. So, I mean, just this is one thing that I guess I learned what I'm trying to say. Pay attention. And I'm talking to myself. I'm not talking to just you. Pay attention. You can't, there's no buttons. It's a hot dog. I also, this one's just kind of funny. One busy night, it was really busy. Like sometimes because it was 16 screens, there would be long lines at the concession stand. Like 15, 20 minutes maybe. I don't know about that. I never counted, but they were long. And one time luckily I worked at CVS, and I knew that snow caps, the generic version, are called nonpareils. And I only knew that because CVS sold generic versions of snow caps. So this gentleman waits in line for probably 10 to 15 minutes easy, gets to the front and says, I'd like a box of nonpareils, please. Now we have a list of the candy. We literally have the candy in a lit up case in front of you. And there's no snow caps. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, sir. We don't have any snow caps or any nonpareils. And he just looked at me right in the face and said, you just ruined my movie-going experience. And he left. He just left. Didn't get a Diet Coke. I'm not even sure if he saw a movie. He just disappeared into the night because we didn't have nonpareils. Ugh. Oh, this one's... When I was a server at the seafood restaurant, you'd get interesting requests. Like you learned a lot about people. I learned that young, not even young, very petite Asian women can eat so much. They're so small and they're so polite, but they can eat. Like we had a baked stuffed lobster that was like upwards of 5-6 pounds, and they would very quietly and very politely and not make any mess eat the entire thing and sides and appetizers, and like they know how to throw down. But you also get some weird requests, and one of them was I'll never forget this. Someone ordered well done shrimp, which, if you don't know shrimp takes like 2.5 minutes to cook. Maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration. Under 5, I'll say that. You just cook it on one side, cook it on the other side, boom, you're done. She ordered well done shrimp and then proceeded to tell me that they were too well done. I mean, no one wants any well done. As soon as the shrimp turns well done, you've gone too far. Turn around and get some unwell done shrimp. It was There's something about dealing with the public that really makes you hate the public. It's the truth. And not only just the public, this is number 2. Bosses. Like when I started working, I respected bosses and the chain of command. We're not in the military, but I respected what the bosses said, and I thought they were all smart and worldly people. And it turns out that not just minimum wage, every job, there are good bosses. I'm not saying I had every boss was shitty, but the bosses are just regular, stupid, normal people too. Like the problem that I have with some of my old former bosses, and this is not Joey, but like minimum wage bosses, is that they take their job so seriously, and we're selling popcorn, guys. I'm selling Band-Aids at CB, not at the movie theater. One of my favorite things that bosses would make us do, and I'm being sarcastic, but it makes me laugh. It just shows you what we're like as a society. A few times a year, the corporate offices would come into everywhere that I worked, and the circus that a lot of the bosses would put together when corporate came into the office was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. They were like dusting plants, putting up pictures in frames that hadn't been up ever. Like, they would put on such a big issue about corporate coming, but then when all other 363 days out of the year, when the customers who are actually paying to come in are there, they'd give 2 shits about that. They just don't want to get in trouble by corporate. It's just true. This is fun. I got fired once because a customer made a mistake, and not really. I guess I did get fired. It wasn't really fired. I got let go from a restaurant. They just said, I think we've had it. Like, they didn't say like you're fired. Like, it wasn't like you're fired. It was just like, we think it's been enough. Because I'm good with people, but like, just going back to like caring too much. Like, I worked at a seafood place, and I was a chubby dude, and they made you wear long sleeve button down shirts, and they wouldn't let you roll up the sleeves, and I sweat all the time. Just all the time. Especially if I'm wearing long sleeve shirts. So like, they'd get mad at me for that. One time they made me come in for like 2 weeks to learn how to open a bottle of wine. I still do know how to open a bottle of wine with one hand. And not with like the one you put over the bottle, like the one that looks like a little Swiss Army knife. I still know how to do that. But I got fired from that place because I took an order. I don't remember what the order was, but I still know that I got the order right because I have a good memory. I know that it's not as good anymore because of marijuana, but I had a great memory. Now it's just okay. And I brought him the food. He was like, and he wasn't even angry. He was just like, oh, I thought I ordered something else. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. So no, I wrote it down and this is what you ordered. He's like, oh, okay. And my manager, who didn't like me, took me downstairs and basically asked for my badge. I was like, oh, I think this is going to be it. I was like, all right, it's fine. And I just went back to the movie theater, which I enjoyed much more. But it's just, I got written up a couple times, I guess, or I got fired at the seafood place. At the movie theater, the only time I ever got written up was just like, this goes under, chalk this under people caring too much. I understand that you're not allowed to like be on your cell phone the entire time you're working, but I also like worked with people who would just let their friends in for free, which I did a couple times. And then one person brought their, like, would just park, even though we were in Boston, at a meter, and then every couple hours would go and feed the meter and be gone for 20 minutes. I was a pretty good worker, and I got written up for taking my cell phone out of my pocket to look at the time. And they actually wrote me up. I had a write up, and I like was a protester. They wanted me to sign. I said, I disagree. And I just gave, and my buddy was the GM. No, he wasn't the GM at that point. He was the manager, and he just laughed. He's like, I have to, I'm going to put this in, but I disagree on the write up because it was ridiculous. But there's a lot of good stuff about working at minimum wage jobs. One of which is I learned that college degrees and like the job someone has doesn't define who they are as like a person or like their not education level, their intelligence level. So like that guy who I wrote, I disagree with this write up. He had a master's degree, or has a master's degree. They don't take it away. He has a master's degree and just really enjoyed working at the movie theater. And you would see people be terrible to him, both workers and they call them guests, customers. I don't work there anymore. I can call them customers now. Would just be terrible to people. And it, like they would think he was stupid, and it's like, no, like, this dude has a master's degree and just really enjoys working at being the manager of a movie theater. He had one of the smartest tricks I ever saw. So at in the box office, we'd have to ID, and I actually made a mistake, so I have two stories, I guess. You had to ID people for R-rated movies. My first time in box office, some two kids, like a teenage couple, came in to watch an R-rated movie, and I was taking my job serious. It was my first time alone in box office, and they said to me, they came up with 2 tickets for whatever movie, and I looked at their IDs, and they were 17, but they weren't. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you have to be 18 to see an R-rated movie, and you only have to be 17." And I think they wanted to argue, but I said it with confidence, and I had a shirt. With the logo on it, so like I guess maybe they changed the rule. They didn't. I just was wrong. But my friend, my former boss, had a great trick that there were kids all the time they're just high school and middle school kids. They all think they can get away with things that they can't. And they came up and they were like, 2 to this movie, please. And we would say, like, how old are you? 17. Do you have an ID? I don't have an ID. And then this was his trick. He'd go, when's your birthday? And you could just see their face like melt into their neck. Like, everyone knows when their birthday is. You don't have to think about it. So they're all confident, like, 1 ticket to whatever. And what's your birthday? And they would try to do math really quick, but when you can see someone trying to do math in their head, you know they're not the right age, so you'd be like, get out of here. I thought that was hysterical. When's your birthday? I don't know. The best. So yeah, the degree or job you have or someone else has doesn't define them or make them a smart or not smart person. A lot of people, like, that's the other thing that I really think was valuable to me for working a minimum wage job. I was, like I said at the beginning, very blessed and very privileged. And my mom didn't have to work for most of my life. And I had a house, and we went on vacations. We didn't go to Europe, but we went to a ton of places. Disney World a bunch of times. And I was very lucky. And then going and working in these areas where there was a more diverse, like, socioeconomic backgrounds of people. It had nothing to do with race. There were poor white people, but and there were rich black people and Hispanic people. But working with people from different areas taught me a lot. Like I said, my boss had a master's degree. There were plenty of people. Like, I'll never forget, this one girl was probably around my age, maybe even a little younger, and I was in college. And she had like 2 or 3 kids and was supporting them working 2 part-time jobs. And like, when I say part-time, it's just because like the movie theater doesn't make anyone full-time unless you're a manager, I think. Some people have to support their parents. Some people have like bad home situations. So like, they maybe school isn't an option for them. And working these kind of jobs with them really opened my eyes and showed me like, oh, like being being an educated person. I just learned this today. I'm not going to shit on anybody, but I'm dealing with a few professional people right now with like taxes and a couple other things. And just because like you have a degree doesn't mean like you're smart at all. I have a degree, and I spent a decade getting high on the internet for a living. So that's your proof right there. And the other thing that I think gets forgotten, or that I've noticed a lot in people who work these kind of jobs, is that they're very loyal, especially to the job. A lot of people, and myself included, would go from job to job. You're always trying to get promoted, get more money, blah, blah, blah. And there are people, I know for a fact a couple of them still work at the same CVS, still work at the same restaurant, and still work at the same movie theater they did 15 years ago. And some people might not like that. That might not be for everybody, but loyalty is something to support and promote. And yeah, maybe their dream isn't to become a millionaire, or maybe they can't go to college or start a business for some reason, whatever it is, but they have a lot of good qualities. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but I know for a fact if I ever have kids, they're going to work for free, and they're also going to work for minimum wage jobs. Because I think it makes you a better person. And this is sort of on that same topic of just your degree and your job don't define you. I learned a lot that being rich doesn't mean you're a good person at all. Like, for example, I don't know what the rules are now, but I'm sure they still have it. There's a credit card called the American Express Black Card. And back then, it was like a metal card. Like, it was metal. It was super heavy. And it was cool to see. And the rule was, I'm almost positive that you had to be invited, and you had to spend $100,000 a year on it to qualify. So you could and there was no limit on it. So you could literally buy a house with the credit card if you wanted to. Not even a question. The worst tippers I ever had were people with American Express Black Cards. Like, I worked at my first job at the seafood restaurant was takeout. And that was honestly my best paying. I had more fun, I think, at the movie theater, but working takeout was the best job because I got $10 an hour, which was up from $7.75. So for a kid to make $2.25 more an hour is awesome. And on top of that, I got tips and takeout. Not a bunch, but enough that I would never have to take out cash. I was 17 or maybe 18. How old was I then? Yeah, probably between 17 and 18 I worked there. I worked there off and on. But the worst tippers were the ones with American Express black cards, and they would ask the most. They would have a bunch of, can you put this in this container? And, oh, I want, this doesn't look right. Or, oh, I want 3 bags worth of stuff, and can you help me to my car? And then construction workers would come in and get a container of chowder that cost $8 and give me a $5 bill. Like, one of my, I guess, dreams, I do want to be rich. I would like to have a lot of money. But and I was saying this earlier at the beginning, I just have found that in general, I just had the general insurance jingle in my head, and I was trying to think if I could remember to say it, but they're not sponsoring, so screw them. In general, people who are more middle class, like middle class and below, are more fun and nice to be around, like nicer to be around. I've met plenty of nice rich people. There's nothing wrong with being rich, but there's something about having some money for some people. Like money really does corrupt a lot of people. It's just like when I moved from the CVS in my hometown to the other CVS, I moved from like an upper middle class town to a working class town, and I preferred the customers in the working class town 1,000,000 to 1. Like this, this is one that I'll never ever. I think it's hysterical, actually. I had just started at CVS. I was 14, and I was a cashier one night, and I was taking it very seriously, and I was very proud of myself. And a young, she was maybe in her late 20s, early 30s, I'll guess, maybe mid 30s tops. And she came up, and I said, "How may I help you, ma'am?" And she looked at me. I was 14, and got so mad. And I get it. No one wants to think that they're old, but like, you should realize that I was just trying to be polite. And she said, I'll never forget this. She said, "I'd rather you call me bitch than call me ma'am." And so now I just call old lady. No, I can't even say it. I don't like that word. But I remember as a 14-year-old sheltered kid, it blew my mind that I basically, that was like my first Karen experience. And I've dealt with many Karens. No amazing story. Just, getting yelled at because, again, and this is something I really do try to put into my own my personal life. If I go somewhere, and like for example, at the movie theater, they had a rule that we couldn't give out extra cups because that's how they did inventory to know if people were stealing, or extra popcorn bags. And people would get so mad. Like, they wanted extra cups, extra bags. Maybe they used to be able to do that. I don't know if they can now. Back when I was working there, you couldn't at all. You could give them they called them a courtesy cup, and there was nothing courteous about them. They were tiny. And you would tell people, "Sorry, I can't give you a cup. You can buy another bag for the same price, but I can't give you another bag or cup." And they would yell at you or me like I told them that they were fired. And so now the reason why I said that was I do try now in my personal life to be as understanding as possible. If I can tell that the whoever I'm working with is nice and courteous, but just is not allowed to do something, I go out of my way to not make a scene, not to, like I always tell people, even on the phone when I'm dealing with a telemarketer, I'm like, "Listen, I know this isn't your fault, but I'm angry because of this. Or I know I'm not mad at you, or thank you for your help. I know this wasn't your issue, but it's amazing to me that, especially now in the day of smartphones, when you can get put on blast immediately, that people still yell and like fight minimum wage. Like, do you think I want to be telling you no, or like getting anyone upset? No. Like, do you think I really care? Like, I used to go to McDonald's. Did I want more dipping sauces? Of course. Did I realize that they were probably on camera and would get in trouble if they gave me the 7 sweet and sours that I wanted? Yeah, and I'm not gonna. Why are you so stingy with the sauce? Well, because I'm allowed to give you 2, fatty. That's just to me. That's not to you. You're probably very thin and don't go to McDonald's. But yeah, it taught me empathy working at minimum wage jobs. And the last thing that I wanted to just quickly mention was, it just showed me really how to make friends, and it also showed me more specifically that hate and anger really bring people together, because I still have some really great friends from my time at the movie theater, and like and other jobs, and like a lot of what we still talk about is like either workers that we hated, or shitty bosses, or their shitty customers. Like it still makes me laugh. It's not that funny, unless you saw it. But like, we would always open the doors to the movie theater 30 minutes before they opened, and every day that I opened, and I learned to resent people for it, which does happen too. You learn empathy, but you also learn to resent the public, which is not good. But every day, people would get there early and put their heads and faces up against the door of the movie theater, and like, everyone has to try to open it up. And I think we even had a sign that it opened 30 minutes before. Even if we didn't, like, we're gonna open the door before the movie. Like, people would just freak out, and the hatred and contempt we had for either our bosses or the clients or the customers, whatever you want to call them, really formed some really lifelong friendships. So that's it for this week. I really do feel like it's important, and I think I'm very happy that I worked the jobs that I worked. I think it helped me later in life. So if you're younger, or if you have kids, I honestly can't recommend internships and minimum wage jobs enough. I think it's important. I bought a car, my first car, in 1997, Chevy Cavalier. It was 2014 or 15, somewhere around there. And it was a $2,000 car. It was teal, and the locks, when it got cold, like, the doors wouldn't close because they would freeze. But I love that car. And I had friends who got literally an Escalade, and they would crash them and total them. I took good care of my car. It was messy sometimes on the inside, but I never dinged it up. I'd always get the oil changes. I took a lot of pride that I bought my own first car, and I think it's important. So thank you guys very much for watching and listening. I will be back next Monday with a brand new episode of What Was I Thinking? Thank you to Manscaped. Don't forget, the Lawnmower 4.0 is out, and you get 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com using code Syatt at checkout, SYATT. And thank you so much. Tell a friend, tell a buddy. I appreciate you watching and listening, and I'm so excited to be back from Denver and doing next week's episode with you. I love you all, and I'll see you on Monday. All right, guys. Bye.